Hello everyone, welcome to this video tutorial, which is the second of the PR1 Photoshop assignment. Today we're going to make another fictional movie poster. I'm going to show you more techniques and more tools to play around with. So please try this in your own time and also try it with your own movie poster ideas and use some of the effects that I'm using here. Okay, thanks. Okay, let's get started. Now the first thing we'll have to do is obviously download the source material from NetSchool. So it's under course information, PR1 Photoshop, poster tutorial 2. And there's also PDF here, which I'm going to roughly follow. There'll be a few things I'll do a little bit differently to try some extra effects out. But nevertheless, if you want to download the PDF and try it letter by letter, that's also fine. So if we download the files, we now have our three files open, which is the Obama profile JPEG, this image here of the soldiers, and this one here of the helicopters. The next step to do is to make a new file. And we'll name the file the underscore next underscore 3 days. We're looking at international paper size A4, 300 ppi, and we're going to stick this time with RGB because we're just going to use it on screen. 8-bit white background, and then we click OK. So there we are, there's our new document. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rotate the canvas. So rotate that 90 degrees clockwise, because this poster is not going to be portrait, we're going to do this one landscape. The first thing we'll do is we'll take the Obama image, go to the Move tool, File, select all, edit, copy, back to our next 3 days, and then edit, paste. Now you can see it's just slightly smaller than their actual canvas size. So what we can do here is we can take the Move tool, we can move it around like so, but we're going to move it so the corner hits the top right hand corner here. Then we'll go to Edit, Transform, Scale, and we hold the Shift key down, and with the Shift key down we just drag it very slightly like so until it fills the screen, and then we click Return. Now the next step, we will name our layer here, so we just simply click on it and call it Obama. The next thing we need to do after that is to take away this little graphic which says AP. So we'll firstly zoom in with the spyglass tool. We can take the hand tool here to move it around. Zoom in a bit more, and we'll use the clone stamp tool here, and we'll clone an area. Make sure we're on the Obama layer, sorry. We'll clone an area from here and we'll paint it over there. So in order to do that, this acts like a brush. So we'll select a size maybe about 60 pixels. And we'll maybe take that down to about 85, flow 85 as well, just so we get a nice soft brush. And if we want to clone, for example, from here, we would hold our Alt key and we can get this target appearing. And then if we brush over there, we can see we clone the jacket and we paint over there. Now, I hope you've noticed then that the colour variation is quite stark here. So it's very light here and quite dark there. So we're going to have to redo that again. Now, if you don't already have your history panel open, if you go to Window, go to History, and then we can step back and retrace our steps, and we can try it again. So if we want to clone very accurately, we need to take the pixels closely next to the AP itself, from perhaps about here. We see our target, and then we can just gently paint over the graphic. And then we can also do it from the other side here, and maybe closer to the top, because you can see there's some light pixels and some dark pixels. So we'll maybe clone here, and again, and we have got rid of that blemish on the image. The next step is we'll go to the soldier image. We'll select it by going select all or Control A. We can then go to edit copy, and then back to our document in the next 3 days, then edit paste. Now that has generated a new layer, so we'll double click here to name it. And with a move tool, Command Z. Now you can notice I was on the Obama layer there, so if I click on the soldiers layer, we can move that around. Now also a nice trick is if we click auto select here, that will automatically select whichever layer we point to. So if we notice, I now click on the Obama layer, I'm over the soldiers JPEG, so it now selects that. So that's quite an interesting tool if you want to just point and click and find what actual layer you're on. Now we're going to position this soldier layer somewhere around here, but in order to see it working a little bit better, we can take the opacity down. We'll maybe take that down to about 50%. And we want to position it round about there, but we want to make it a little bit bigger. So we'll go Edit, Transform, Scale. And what I want to do is I want to try and get this part of the soldier aligning up with the kind of shape of the eye or the eyebrow. So I can tab down a little bit there. I might want to make it a little bit bigger as well, so hold the Shift key. And something like that is what I want to get. So once I'm happy with my positioning, I'll just click the Enter key or the Return key. In the tutorial, I rely also on the rulers as a guideline to where to position this layer here. So I'll just show you how I did that. So if I go to View, Rulers, you get these rulers at the side of your screen. And these are really helpful when you're doing quite specific graphic layouts for magazines and things like that. And the way to use the rulers is on your move tool, if you simply just click and you drag, you can see a guideline appearing. And from the left hand side as well, we can click and drag and we can get another ruler. And we can make as many as these as we want. If you don't want it, we can just take it and drag it to the side and it disappears. And in the PDF that you have, I'm using this guideline here to line up with the hands. So I want the hands around about that level with the ear, and with this guideline here, I used the profile from the lips there to the nose up to the eye, and I wanted the soldier's body to be round about this part. Now I can also do a few other things here. I can go Edit, Transform, I'll go Scale again a little bit. I'm going to try and just make it slightly bigger. Now, what I quite like is the shape that gets generated here. It's almost the same shape as the eye. And I'm going to choose skew this time, which slightly stretches the image, and you can see it makes the emphasis of the soldiers leaning forward a bit more. So I can also do that to get them leaning back. I can maybe move this part up a little bit. The position that I'm using there, I just click return and I save that selection. Now let's have a look at deleting or taking away some of these extra areas of the soldiers layer that we don't need in order to make it look like the two images are fitting together. So what we'll do first is we'll go view and click off extras, and view, click off rulers, as we don't really need them at the moment. We'll now select the eraser tool, this one here. And this just acts like a brush as well, except it takes parts or erases part of the photograph away, like so. Edit, undo. Now we want a nice soft brush or eraser. So just go with this one again. And when I drag over, you can see it gives a nice soft edge there. That means we can make a nice fade. And when we do this, we need to be very, very accurate in here. And over these parts, we can be a little bit more free with our brush strokes. And in order to do this very, very well, I recommend that you use different size of brushes. For example, if we're taking away some of the brush strokes here, it's a good idea to zoom in and to use quite a small brush size. Let me see, we'll maybe go with that just now, and we'll take the opacity down to 80 and the flow maybe down to about 80 as well. And we'll just start brushing. I'll maybe make that a little bit lighter, maybe try 70. Because we want to retain some of the textures in here and the shape. If you zoom in, you can still see a slight line. No, maybe it's away. Zoom out. And again, we can use the hand tool to move around. Back to the eraser. And we just want to take the slightly edge off the bottom of the image there. And we can maybe even tap just very gently here and there. Now if we turn the Obama layer off, we can see still there's a little bit of a line. So just be very, very careful about that, because sometimes you might not see it and others will. Okay. Now for these parts here, we can use a bigger brush, like so, and maybe take the opacity up to make it a bit quicker. If we hold the space bar, we can also get the hand tool, so we can remove that a little bit quicker. Again, turn the layer off to make sure that we're taking that away. You can see we still have some of the edges there. Now it's better to take less away than to take more away at this point. Move it around. Okay, we can still see that. Turn it back on. Hand tool. I'm going to take that away down because we want to try and be very gentle with taking. And what I think is a good technique here, if we make a very, very large brush, oh, too big, maybe about, and we take the opacity way down, and we can just simply click once or twice, maybe 3 times. It should dull some of the areas down slightly, so we still retain a lot of the information of the original image. And let's just zoom out. And that's looking quite good at the moment. Now the next thing we'll do is we'll make an adjustment layer where we'll try and create a better relationship between the soldier layer and the Obama layer and try and fuse them together. And this is essentially looking at kind of colour correction, colour balance. And this is also very applicable when you do AV projects, same type of principles. So down at the bottom here, we're going to create a new adjustment layer, a fill layer, and the one we'll choose is black and white. Okay, so we can see that we've now got a black and white mask over this. Now all the colour information is still there below this mask, except it's made it black and white. And this is a great tool. I really love this tool. We're going to choose tint to start with. So you can see the effect working already where it's, as I said, fused the two images together to make it look more coherent. Maybe just have a little play around with some of the tonal ranges to see how it works. I really like that on its own, but it's not the type of look we're after in this poster. But you can, it's good to see with the way the things that actually, as I said, work, and you can keep a mental note for future projects on how you might use or integrate some of these techniques. Now, the one that we're going to use is we're going to click on the tint. We can see here, maybe before we do that, we can see all these pre-built in filters, which maybe don't look so good at the moment. So we'll go back to that, choose tint, and we're going to choose a blue tint. So we could click around and find a colour that we want. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to type in the following, which is E3EEED. And that's a hexadecimal number, which gives us this kind of bluey tint. And then we'll click OK, and that's given us that that effect there. Now we still have the colour information below here. As you can see, when we turn off the layers, we have the nice golden browns against the nice silvery blue here. And what would be quite nice is to have some of both parts. So we can burn away the layer mask here, quite simply. So if we take our eraser tool, and it's still on the previous sets of opacity 34, flow 82, it's quite a large brush. We need to make sure that we're on the white foreground colour. So if I click on the mask itself and then I just burn away, click, 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 I can burn through the mask so that I see some of the colour information coming through the mask itself, and I really like this effect as well. Now if we do that too much, we can also fill it back in, and we do that by just switching the foreground colour to the background colour, and if we paint on, it fills the mask in again. Okay, so you can get some fantastic techniques with your posters by using this, maybe even a highlight in the ear or on the lips, on the forehead. The next step, we're going to create another adjustment layer. And to do that, back down to the layer panel down here, and we're going to choose the levels. Now what the levels does, it adjusts the dark tones, the mid tones and the light tones. And the reason that we're doing this is, again, we want to create a lot more texture in the image itself, and we want to increase the intensity of the look or the aesthetic. So this is the mid-tone slider here. So we can increase the amount of lightened areas in the mid-tones. These are the dark tones. Increase the amount of darkness and the amount of very light tones here. Okay. So the first thing we'll do, we want to take the dark, let's increase the dark tones to about 25. And this effect here is beginning to look really, really nice. It looks really rich and dark, which I really like. We take the midtones back to about 1, in fact maybe just about there, and increase it slightly. So play around yourself, choose your own properties. Every screen's calibrated different, so you might not get the exact look that I have, but just be your own judge. Click off there. Let's just see how that's looking. So you can see before it was looking very nice with this burned mask there to reveal some of the overall picture. And again, just another layer of Photoshop skills to bring your image more to life. Now let's look at the text. So first of all, we select the text tool here from the toolbar. Click on our image and we'll type in the return next return 3 return days. Now let's look at the font. Which font would we like to use? Now the font that we have in the tutorial is Helvetica New Ultra Light Italic, which I don't have. So what we'll go for here is a nice simple font, a nice clean simple font. What do we have? Well, first of all, let's increase the size. We want the text to be about 48 points. So first select it and then we can increase the size. Now quite a good trick is if we select on the properties the text and we can just tab through with our arrows, we can see how all the text actually looks in real life. So rather than just looking at the text here to choose a nice font, that's quite a nice way to do it. And you can just very quickly tab through on with your arrow keys. So this is a nice font here, Eris Light ITC, which I think is italic. With its size 48, we want to choose a colour. I've already chosen my colour, which is this pale yellow, hexadecimal number FFF79D. Click OK. Now if you don't already have your character panel open, please go to Window, click on Character, and this enabled us to customize the text even further. So your text will probably all look different unless you've chosen the font, Eris Light, size 48, and that colour there that we just specified. Now what we want to do is we all want to try and make this look the same. So we want the text to touch the text below on the line below it. So what we do here is we use this little tool here, which is called a leading, which is the space between the lines. So we can increase that or we can decrease it. Let's just decrease it so we can see the letters touch the ones below or above. We can also play around with the spacing in between the letters, and this is called the tracking. And these are derived from typography terminology. So we can make that spaced out or closer together. And it's quite nice if we play around with this and we can see some nice shapes forming. For example, where the H and the N become the one kind of line there. That's quite interesting, okay? So if we're happy with our text, we can then take it and we can try and position it like so. Now, a very rudimentary trick here, what we can also do is in order to follow the shape of the profile, we might click our tab bar here click a tab bar there, and tab bar here, so that the text kind of follows the profile of the character in the movie. I want to make one more adjustment to the text before we move on to the next part of the tutorial. Now what I'd like to do here is we're going to turn the text into a graphic, which means we can play around with the shape of it a lot more. So in order to make it a graphic, what we need to do is we need to take the move tool, select the layer, and we're going to click this function here, which is a rasterize the type. So that now means that we can no longer edit the type because it's not a font anymore, it's now a graphic. Now if it's now a graphic, what we can do is we can apply different functions to it. For example, we can change the perspective. Don't apply. Edit, transform. We can distort it. So we get this kind of interesting effect there, which we won't use. Don't apply. And what we want to do is we're going to go edit, transform, and we're just going to skew the text slightly, so we can just tilt the text so it points towards the end of, or this side of the poster. And we're happy with the shape of it now, and just click return, and that's that done. Now the next part of text we need to look at is the date. So now again, text tool, and we'll write on the screen in theatres December 2016. Oh, let's give them the symbols. 2016. Okay, we'll just make that a bit smaller. We'll make that 14 points. Okay. And the next thing I want you to do is to select it again, and we're going to use this font, which is called Impact, which is quite a nice font, a nice bold font, quite a heavy font. Okay. And we want to make it sit under the word days here. So in order to do that, we want to make sure that it matches the length. So you can see it's a little bit bigger. So if we just simply move it into place, select the text, and then we can use again the tracking tool and just to line that up nice and neatly. And we can use our tab keys, our arrow keys, to create a little bit of space, and there's our second piece of text finalized. Now we're going to make another layer, and we're going to work with our composite modes to create a really interesting lighting effect. So the first thing we'll do is create a new layer, and we'll call this one Highlights. Then we'll choose a brush, and we want to choose a nice large brush, maybe about 400 pixels, and the opacity round about 60 and the flow round about 60. So you can see the round shape on the screen is an indication of the size of that. Now the colour we want to use here is this hexadecimal number already itemized, which is EBC336. And if you click OK, now we can be quite free with what we're doing here, because if we put too much colour in, we can also take it away. So just play around. I want you to paint over just like that, and it gives this really nice golden glow effect, right? It doesn't matter how much you put in, because we can also take it away. So the composite modes, And these are the lighting effects here. And we can tab through them like so. So you can see some of the potential it has. Some work very well with what we have here, and some not so good. Soft light's nice, overlay's nice. But the one we're looking for is called vivid light, which is this one. Okay, now that looks very strong at the moment, but we can take the intensity of that down to around, say, 55, maybe 60. Now, as I said, if we put too much in, some parts of that work quite nice, we can maybe see that already, but some parts are maybe too much. So again, we can take an eraser tool. Let's just see, a nice big eraser, maybe 400 pixels. Keep the flow quite low as well, and the opacity low, and then we can just take out quite a lot of that as well. So it just gives us some extra texture in there. And it's also quite nice to see, if you turn the layer off and back on, you can see what parts are working and what are not working, and what the effect is actually doing. So it's essentially what we're doing is we're really bringing it all together. Okay, so the next step, we're going to put the movie star's name across the poster, and this bit can be quite tricky. So I'm going to just explore some different ways to do this and try some different effects, maybe a little bit different than what's on the tutorial that's written, but hopefully you'll make up your own mind and try your own techniques out, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the text tool and we're going to type in, let's see, we'll just Ben Zell return string tone. Okay. Now that text is not so good for a movie star, so first things first, we'll need to make it bigger. So let's make it, say for example, 60 points. That's a horrible font. So again, we can tab through like so, but the one I'd like to use is called Impact again. So I choose Impact. It's a nice big bold strong font, and that colour looks good as it is. However, I think we should make it a little bit bigger, maybe, so we can select it, and we're going to make this now 72. So it's a little bit squashed up. Again, we'll select it, and what we'll do is we'll change in here, we'll change the leading. So although we want it to kind of still sit on top, we don't want it totally squashed up like that. So that will do us about there. And then we can take the text, and we want to position it around about there, so it's a kind of almost in line with the text here. And it gives a nice flow around the poster. Most of the kind of focus of the audience should be around about that part there. And it's also nice to do at this point is to look at it with a black background and see how it's shaping up. And that's looking quite nice. So again, Tab F gets back to our working mode here. Now we're going to do a little trick here with the text. I'm going to select here the Magic Wand tool, and I'm going to just click on the page itself. So that's selected everything outside the text, and if I turn my layer off, I can see the selection is live, and everything outside that text is what we can work in. So our text is live, as we see. There's a layer back on, there's a layer off. Now we can do an interesting thing here. We can create a new layer, and we can name this one, for example, Movie Star, right? Now, as we're on this layer, that means the selection is now applicable to that layer. So say for example, I maybe choose the gradient tool here, and I put a gradient in, it would apply the gradient to the area that we selected. Command Z. If I go select, inverse, and I put a gradient, it's going to select everything inside the selection, like so. Command Z or Command D, and that gives us quite a nice effect there. Okay, so I'll just use my history tool to go back a couple of steps here. So we can change the selection to being inside or outside. Okay, that's it. Outside, so we select everything here, select, inverse, everything inside. Now what we want to do, rather than just putting some, rather than just using a normal font colour, we can put in some interesting textures. And to do that, again, let's just choose a nice bright red this time to start with. And then if you choose our brush tools, let's just see. Again, let's just look at the one we've always been using. So if I went to now go and paint in here, I can get a really nice effect like so. Right. Again, I just want to go back. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to create a nice textured brush. So you can see the brush tips on these ones here. If I paint in, we get some really nice effects like so. That one, or this one, Command Z. What do these ones do? It's smaller. So you can build up layers of the text as well like that. You might even change a different colour while you're doing this. Maybe like this. Okay. Okay, just take a few steps back. I'm going to try and create a nice, let me see what this one does. Okay, that looks like quite a nice texture. Again, I'm going to go back to the red colour. And if I hold the shift key down, it means I can draw in a straight line. It's not the best. Undo that one. Let me try. Whoa, here, let's try this one. And that gives a nice gradient on it. Command Z. Let's see the other one. Okay, let's just get back to this one again. Let's try that. And it's very soft, very light. Back and forward. We can maybe take the opacity of the brush up and the flow of the brush up. That was quite low there. Maybe try it down here. And it's just gradually. I'm too tired to speak. Maybe add in a nice accent colour, maybe this purple. Maybe just up the top. And it's just rendering. So Command D, and then we can see how that looks. That looks not too bad. But then again, we can go back. So just play around and try different things out to create some interesting effects with the text. I'll maybe just fill this in a little bit more. Back to the brush, and I'll maybe just go with one of these. Just to fill it in a little bit. Okay, that looks quite nice. Control D. So I like that little accent of the purple in there. And maybe what we could also do, again, if we take the eraser tool, because that's not a text layer, we can do different things with that. We might even put in different composite modes, like so. See what kind of effects we get. Not too much, too much, too much. We can take the pressure down, we can add it up. Let's see, we might move it. Again, we might go to Edit, Transform, Skew. Make it a little bit more dynamic. And what might be quite nice is to add a bit of texture on it. We can maybe choose the eraser here. We could maybe choose a nice textured edge to the razor. I'll make this very, very, very soft. And we can maybe just take parts of it away. Try another one, we'll try this. So there's a lot of really interesting things you can do with that. Another thing we can do is we can maybe put some effects. We can maybe put a drop shadow on it. And you can see that there. We can change the angle, we can change the spread of it. We can maybe, let me see, put a contour on it. Texture, a stroke round the outside. I'm not a big fan of these, but this one's quite nice, which is an outer glow, which is a kind of a shine, but it looks not too bad. But as I said, I don't really like to use these effects so much, but they're there for you. That's a wee bit too Hollywood for my liking. I'm not going to use them, but they're there for you to use anyway. So maybe just take the opacity down. Okay. Now again, you can repeat that effect. You could again take that layer, select, inverse, create a new layer, movie star 2, turn this layer off, and then again you can try all sorts of different things in there. Come on. Turn it off if it's saved, that one's back on, or you have your original text in there. Command D. Okay. Right, the last thing we're going to do is introduce the helicopter down here. Now just one other thing I want to touch upon on the text layer we just worked on is this effect. It's just occurred to me. So I'm going to get back a couple of steps. I am going to, excuse me, select inverses. I just want that text in here, like the shape. A new layer. I've already made a new layer, so that's applicable to this layer here. And I'll call this one, I'm going to call this one helicopter, because I'm going to do a little trick here. Command Z. So I'm going to take the helicopter, I'm going to go select all, edit, copy, back here, and then we're going to go to edit, paste special. Need to make sure, sorry, I need to make sure this layer's on. Then edit, paste special, paste into. Now that has pasted the image inside that selection. So you can get some really nice effects, and you can simply move that image of the helicopter around like so. So if we preview this, if you click Tab, F again, there's also another really interesting way to work with your text by pasting images into the background of it. Now to further customize that, what we can do with the layer, if we right click and we can merge down, because when we try to move the layer just now, what we do is we just move the helicopter. But if we flatten the mask and the layer, we click merge down, and that means we can further, for example, transform the text, maybe skew it, edit, transform, skew, maybe further if we wanted to do that. That's looking quite nice there. Also, what we can maybe do is maybe take some parts of it out. We could maybe rub away a little bit, maybe off the bottom with the eraser, just give it a slight. Now we're at the last part of the tutorial here, where we're going to place the helicopter and paint in some sky at the bottom. So we find the image, select all, edit copy, edit, paste. Okay, now it's created a layer here at the very top, so we'll just call that helicopter image. And we want to move that right about there and go edit, transform, scale, make that quite small here. So we want a little bit of space at the bottom here. Want it to touch the edge, and right about there we just click return, and that's it, positioned. Okay, the next thing we'll do, we'll give it a nice composite mode. I like that dark, rich colours here as opposed to the sort of colours there. So we'll work with this just now. The next thing we'll need to do is we'll need to take some of the edges off it. So if we turn off the Bama layer and we go to the eraser tool, perhaps it's best to zoom in when we do this. Or maybe make that a bit smaller. And just this little part here. Turn it back on. Okay, and zoom out. Right, the next thing we'll do now is we will now just notice as well what we need to do with this part here within theatres. We can take that and we can move that on top so we can still see it. Okay, because as it was there, the helicopter was sitting over it, just the way we positioned it. So on the helicopter image, and then we'll go one below. We're going to make 3 new layers in here, 1, 2, 3, and this one's going to be called Sky Yellow. This one's going to be called Sky Red, and this one's going to be called Sky Blue. Okay, so we firstly choose the yellow layer. We will choose the colour picker tool, and we can choose any colour we like from here by clicking on it. We want to choose this kind of golden yellow colour there. So it now loads it into our colour foreground palette. Choose a brush, and the one we'll choose, I've already on it actually, the one we'll choose is this one. Yep, quite small already, and maybe about 60%. And we'll start here from the left hand side, or right hand side, sorry. We will just click the shift key and then just click and drag. And just go right along to the very, very edge. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create the illusion of the sky still sort of being extended beyond the parts that we've just cut off. Okay, it's nice to play around with the opacity, opacity here. Now we can add in and we can take away all the time. We can still also, if it's too intense here, we can take the eraser tool, and again we can take parts of that out because that's already working. Okay, and it's this part here we really need to be careful for, or look out and make work. Okay, so we can all, yeah, let's just keep going. And again, so we can still see that blend. Maybe I'll take the opacity up a little bit. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm going to go in with the eraser tool and gently take away some of the parts here. This part should take you quite a bit of time to do. But you get the idea. Now, every time I do this, you get a different result, so don't worry about it. Sometimes it doesn't look so good, sometimes it looks great, sometimes part of it looks really good, but this part down here doesn't look so great, so it's just practice, practice, practice. I'll now move on to the red colour. Choose that. Yeah, let's see if we can choose that there first. I'll use the same size brush. And what I'll maybe try also is just to complement that with a smooth brush. And what I'll do is I'll take a very big smooth brush, but I'll make it a very, very and back to the razor. It's beginning to get there. Some parts in there I need to tidy up a little bit. I'll maybe go to this blue layer now. I'm going to select a nice accent colour, like so. Back to the texture brush. And that just gives it a little lift, and because we're behind that helicopter layer, it helps us make the shape of the helicopter a bit more prominent, like so. So let's just take out some of this. So I've just worked away on a few different layers here. I've also taken some more of the helicopter out of the images out there. I think that's helped it a little bit. Tried different brushes, added in some more blue, different layers, different textures. And if you preview your image, it's quite a nice attempt at a movie poster, some nice complementary colours. So thank you for watching this second tutorial. I hope you found it interesting and it gives you some nice ideas. Hopefully as well you can see some of the techniques that I'm using and apply them to your own projects. Yeah, just try them out, try the adjustment layers. There's many different features in there that I've not explored yet, but try that out, as I said, see what kind of results you get. Throughout the tutorial there, I jumped ahead a little bit at the end where you can see the paint work done over the helicopters, just because it takes quite a lot of time. So just, as I said, just watch what I've been doing, just experiment with different brushes, different layers and things like that, and I'm sure you'll be fine. Be really interested to see what kind of results you get. So try your best. I'll see you in class next week, and I really look forward to seeing some of your initial ideas. Okay, thanks very much.